Hi, I'm Antonio. Let's roll a short arm FRC today. Focus rigid cast. You'll need your water. You'll need your polyester casting tape, 2-inch or 3-inch, your preference. Some stockinette. Also, you'll need terry cloth. This gives the patients a little more padding, and they're able to clean out their FRC if needed. A cutting strip to protect the patient's skin once we use the scissors to remove the FRC from the patient. Good old pair of trusty gold handle scissors and some bandage scissors. Also, we'll be using foam to protect bony prominences and padding in areas where needed. And we'll be applying Velcro to the FRC so the patient is able to take the brace on and off as needed or prescribed by the physician. And a trusty old marker just in case you need to mark your cutting lines. Let's do it. Like always, you're going to make sure your patient's in a comfortable and neutral position as prescribed by the provider ordering this FRC or focus rigid cast. We're going to cut out the thumb. You can pre-cut your stocking if you need. I myself do not pre-cut my stockings just because, as I said before, previous experience. We're going to use this cutting strip to run it down the length of the patient's forearm. If you're doing a short arm, you run it down the radial aspect of the arm or where needed, depending on the circumstance of that said arm. We're going to take this foam and we're going to apply it to the ulnar styloid, the bony prominences of the patient's forearm, so they do not become irritated when removing or applying this device, or FRC in this case. I'm just trimming up this piece of foam, just apply it into the palm. I normally use this technique when I have patients who have very arthritic knuckles. Sometimes the removing of the FRC can irritate those areas. That foam padding just helps. Now it's time to apply the cast. Here I'm just fan folding. This is the focus rigid aspect of it. The focus rigid aspect of this particular cast will be the volar aspect of the forearm. While using tempered water, I dump my strut and my roll and I apply it to the patient. And at this point, sometimes the patient may supinate just a little bit to try to assist you. Try to have them not move. Keep them as neutral as possible. And then you're going to apply an even 50-50 roll. As you're going through the web space of the thumb, you can cut if you like. I myself do not cut because I know once I get ready to remove and trim, I will be trimming back some of the edges and the material of this FRC. And you just roll it on down to the antecubical space. Once you got it down, trim off the edge, excess, whatever you don't need. You do not want to overroll this material. Overrolling this material will cause this FRC to become hard to put on and or take off. So it needs to be an even 50-50 roll. Keep that in mind, 50-50. And you rub it how you love it. Once it's set and dry, you're going to get in here, you're going to cut down the radial aspect of the arm along that cutting strip. If you let it dry long enough, there should be a slight ridge, and you want to stay in between the ridges that cutting strip creates as you go down the forearm. Take your time. Patients are a little nervous at this point. You got a sharp object and you're relying on a very small stick to keep that blade off their skin. Remove the thumb first, then open it wide and slide it off. And now the magic is about to happen. We're going to get this thing trimmed up. We're going to make it look pretty and functional. Note to self, do not take off the FRC until it's dry completely. If you do take it off too soon, it possibly will bow. Remove the thumb sock, any excess material. Grab your bandage scissors and you trim the edges. Try to keep your blades as close to the edge of the material so you don't shorten up your FRC. Okay, try to curve the edges so you don't have anything sharp or pokey or pointy jabbing into the patient once they get ready to apply it. Be very mindful of your finger placements. Scissors are sharp, especially bandage scissors. They call them penny cutters for a reason. So be very mindful of where you apply, where your fingers are before you get to cutting. I'm gonna come through the thumb. You want to make this have a little thickness to it because you don't want it to break, but you don't want to have that thumb area too thick to where the patient can't move their thumbs. As they say in the rule of cast, if it is not damaged, it should be moving. Knock off your excess, any loose ends, check it around. And sometimes at this point for me, I'm just kind of showing off. We will be applying Velcro. This particular Velcro has a sticky back to it. So you pull it off like a little sticker, and then you're gonna apply it to the edge. And I use this technique prior to applying the fleece liner so I can incorporate the Velcro and I don't have to worry about the Velcro adhering from the FRC. I like to put them on opposite ends from the distal and proximal aspect of the device, and that's just to create a little bit of a center force. Now we're going to use the fleece liner. Kind of feels like moleskin, but same aspect as the Velcro. Has a sticker, sticks to it, and I like to start on the proximal end and work my way around. A good way to test to see if your roll is not too thick, you should be able to open up a FRC with one hand. Okay, if you can't open it up with one hand or you're having to strain to open it, that means that you possibly have overrolled in that area. In turn, if you can't open it, that patient can't open it. So keep that in mind. Sometimes your liner wants to get a little tricky, so just be mindful of how you use it. You want to become familiar with your material, and becoming familiar with your material comes from experience and doing it. Now we're going to finish up here. Reconnect at the thumb, work your way around where the hand will be, the fingers. And as you roll your fleece liner, just kind of walk your opposite hand around and just kind of tuck your edges and make it as smooth as possible. There we go. Nice and clean, nice and clean. Smooth it around, tuck it down. I like to run my fingers back over all the edges to make sure that they're all adhered and tacked down. Move any loose debris, because you always want to make sure your work is presentable. This here, I'm just cutting small little strips, maybe a few centimeters wide. And this is just to make sure that I tack down the Velcro, because taking this brace on and off, sometimes that Velcro adheres, it adheres away from the device. So you want to find ways to make sure that the Velcro stays in place for the duration of that patient using that item. Now we'll be using Velcro to adhere, loops as they like to call them. And just stick it on. Normally when I'm doing this, I will have the FRC on the patient's arm, and that's just so I don't waste material, but we're training, so we're gonna do what we can while my patient isn't with me right now. And just recheck, go back over it, look around, make sure everything looks clean and smooth before you present it back to your patient. Then at this point, you show your patient how to reapply the FRC. And you always tell them, you don't want to tell the patient tight. Tight is not a good word as an orthopedic technician. Snug should be your go-to word. And always check to make sure your patient has enough dexterity and they're able to use their fingers. Thank you for watching.